everyone to our Outside the Classroom podcast. This is episode number 3, where we'll be interviewing Miss Ranjini Krishnan, who's a business management teacher, Spanish teacher, and a CAS coordinator in our OIS Overall International School.
Thank you for taking the time to come to our podcast.
Thank you
My
so
pleasure.
Much. Yes. So, Miss, we'll start. We have 4 segments. We have school, beyond school, business management related questions,
And some nice controversial
debatable questions. You know, something like debatable and controversial.
Fabulous. Let's get on.
Let's start. Yes.
So, Miss, the first question: what inspired you to become a teacher?
Okay. Let me put it this way. I like to call myself an accidental teacher.
Okay.
Because I never started off my undergrad education or my masters with the idea of becoming a teacher.
Okay.
Because I'm not originally qualified to be a teacher.
Okay.
I completed my graduation in economics and my MBA in finance, and I was working in the corporate world. And then I took a break. And when I took a break, I decided I didn't want to go back to the corporate world because the hours were too long.
Right.
And I had my daughter by then, and I really didn't want to stay out of house.
9 to 5 job is not really.
It was not even 9 to 5.
Okay.
My last corporate job was 8 to 7. Like, I'm talking about leaving home and coming back home. So 8 to 7. So it didn't make sense to me. So just on a lark, I started learning Spanish because I've always loved languages. And that was in 2010, and then one thing led to another. In 2012 November, I started teaching Spanish because my teacher at that time, she said, this is the best way for you to get better at the language.
Okay.
So as I started teaching, I realized I really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
So I became a teacher, so accidental teacher.
Yeah.
And then I always wanted to also get back to doing what I really loved and qualified as. So
Finance.
Therefore, business also came.
Okay, makes sense. Yeah.
So that's how I'm
Okay,
teaching
so
US.
you started in 2012, so that's around 12 years till 2024. So can you share like a memorable teaching moment from your career, something like that was very memorable for you, an experience or maybe some student or something that must have happened?
There are many. There are many.
I'm sure 12 years is a long time actually. So
Yeah. But it was very funny. This was when the present grade 10 was in grade 6 and we were online. And there was this kid in the class, and we were doing the basic Spanish, you know how you learn about family, etc., etc. And then she was writing about her family, and some things about her mom sounded very familiar. So I asked her, I said, what's your mom called? And she gave me a name, and I'm like, okay, that sounds very familiar. And then the first parent-teacher meeting, I see that her mom was also my student. And I found it like quite funny that I've taught the mom and then I'm teaching the daughter.
2 generations.
Yes.
Yeah, wow.
So that was when I was at the institute, when I used to be teaching adult learners.
Right.
And then I taught the
So you've taught at different places. Can you like give us a description?
Yeah, I
of
started teaching with the institute where I learned Spanish. So I was teaching adult learners or learners across age groups. So I had kids as well, I had adults as well. My oldest student who was not in the class but had private classes was 65 years old.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you've actually taught different generations.
There's no age limit to learn.
Yeah.
No, definitely not. There's no age limit to learning.
So
you can learn always.
Yes. So, Miss, for all of our Duolingo lovers out there, what was like the first method you used to learn Spanish? Like, how did you start
off?
So you told us like you started like you.
I
started
went on a lark. I went to
Yeah.
this institute and I enrolled for the A1 course.
Alright.
And we used to use good old paper and pen
Yeah.
to learn our vocabulary and
Yeah.
Spanish.
Yeah.
Duolingo did not exist
Okay.
then.
Is that a better way to learn? Like, do you
Like-
grasp more when you're learning on paper and pen? Is that
It depends on the learner.
okay?
Like, we are a generation of learners who possibly learned better that way, but possibly you guys learn better
With
Yeah,
more
on
interactive.
Duolingo,
with
more interactive.
devices, apps. Is something that you guys are more in tune with, and therefore you guys possibly learn better.
Okay.
Yeah.
Miss, how would you like compare Spanish to the other languages offered at school? Like now we have Marathi, we have Hindi, French.
Yeah.
How would you compare Spanish as a language?
Very interestingly, this is an example that I always use in my classes, that a lot of grammatical structures in Spanish is very, very close to our Indian languages.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
And English is actually an exception,
Okay.
where it does not follow the structure, but when you actually sit down and think about the grammar,
Yeah.
it's very, very similar to the grammatical structure, and you can name any language. Like I can speak and understand 5 or 6 languages within the country,
Okay.
and they are the same.
Oh.
So I would say
Like
it's
the
pretty
female
common.
male structure.
Female,
Yeah.
male, and then you learn Spanish, so
Yeah.
you know the gustar construction.
yeah.
It's the same.
It's
like you say,
similar.
no, in Hindi mein mujhe ye pasand hai.
हाँ.
So me gusta.
Me gusta.
You don't say
Yeah.
I like. You say
Yeah.
mujhe pasand hai. It's the
Yeah,
same,
yeah,
and it's
yeah.
the same in you. It's the same in Tamil. It's the same in Malayalam. It's the same in Bengali.
It's very
the same
similar.
in Marathi.
Yeah.
So it helps you actually understand other languages
Yes.
as well. Yeah,
Yes,
that's true.
it does. Yeah.
Makes sense.
So moving on to like the more business
Related
oriented side, what does it take to become a businessman in this day and age?
Business person in this
A
day
business
and age,
person,
you know.
In this day and age,
Yeah.
I think the biggest thing everybody needs to know is understand your competitors.
Okay.
Yeah.
Understand who are you working against,
USP, having that unique selling
and
point.
then figuring out what could be your USP.
Yeah.
What can set you apart
Hmm.
from the rest?
Okay.
Because there are so many people doing same things now, and everybody entertains the idea of wanting to become an entrepreneur, start something on their own. So if you're going to be doing, of course you need to have a solid idea to
Yeah.
start with, but also you need to know, is your idea unique or are there others?
Okay.
And if there are others, then what are they doing and how can you do better or do differently?
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
So this was a little business related question, but I think we're not going to stray away from our main topic, which is school related questions. So we'll get back to that. We'll say, if you earned an education, what career path would you have chosen? What's something that you always wanted to do as a kid?
Good question. I don't think I was one of the very motivated kids like you all are. I wasn't even sure what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
So I just went with the flow,
Yeah.
and I pretty much followed my brother's footsteps.
Hmm.
He went and did an MBA, and I went and did an MBA, like a horse with blinkers.
Yeah.
That's one
Just
way.
look at one thing. and
Yeah, just go
Yeah.
with the flow. Everybody around me was doing an MBA,
Yeah.
and it seems, luckily for me, I enjoyed what I did. But yeah, but if it weren't that, I don't know what. Possibly, I would have an Airbnb in one beautiful corner of the world.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
So actually in this day and age, we have two type of people, two type of students, I'd say. There's one who know what they want to do in life for sure. You know, when they're born, they're like doctor hi banna hai, sportsman hi banna hai, and they go towards that. There's another batch that actually doesn't know what they want to do. They keep switching from one thing to another. So what would you give an advice to them?
Yeah, you guys are in that situation. It's a first world problem where you have
Yeah.
an option of too many things to pick from.
Hmm.
Understandably, so it's confusing. I would say at least look at what you don't want to do.
Okay.
Okay.
Go by down selecting or deciding. Definitely not. Mostly not.
But is it a bad thing to not know what you want to do?
Not at
this
all.
age? No.
No.
Yeah.
I think in this day and age, it's pretty normal to not know what you want to do. And I know of people at my age who have worked for so many years and now have quit because they are just so bored
They're
doing
not
what
happy,
they're doing.
they're not happy what
They're
they
not
do.
happy, and
Yeah.
they're possibly looking at other things that they want to do. So it's perfectly fine.
People constantly keep changing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the thing is, it's also the way you evolve as a person, I would say.
Okay.
Because you are moving from one thing, you're doing something and you're doing something really well, and then there's a point in time that comes when you get bored with what you're doing, so you want to
Okay.
do something different,
Yeah.
Right.
something else,
Yeah.
something better. So you're growing as a person
As a-
because you're learning new things,
There are
new
many people
skills.
who actually start doing what they don't like
Exactly.
under some pressure, some kind of
Yeah.
pressure, and at the end they just reach that point where they're like, okay, now I want to do what I actually like, and that's what actually counts at the end.
Yeah, so it's perfectly fine to be confused.
Hmm.
So, looking back, what's one piece of advice you wish you had or hadn't received in your career?
Career or academics or what? Career.
In your life, you
In
can
your
say in
life.
your life. in
Something you
general.
wish you had received or hadn't received.
One piece of advice.
I wish somebody had told me that it is the stupidest thing to do an MBA straight after a graduation.
Okay.
Because I think, because I had the benefit of having classmates and friends who had worked in the industry for 3-4 years and then come to do an MBA.
Okay.
And what they gained out of the course is so much more than what I did.
Okay.
Okay.
I felt very stupid sitting with them, oftentimes, because
Yeah.
they understood things so much better.
That experience is what
Yes,
actually counts. That
yes.
makes sense. So all our business viewers over here, this is one piece of advice that you all should take.
Yeah, you should always, if you're doing an undergrad and if you're doing something, don't jump into a postgrad right away.
Exactly.
Work.
That
Understand
work
whether
experience,
what you did your undergrad is what you want to do your postgrad in, whether that's a field you want to be in or definitely you don't want to be in.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. Okay, and one last question in this school segment. We don't want to stretch it too long. Can you share a significant obstacle in your career and what you learned from it?
Significant obstacle. To be honest, this is something that I like to tell my students, I tell my daughter, and I tell myself that we don't view obstacles as obstacles.
Okay.
Let's see if there is a workaround. Let's try whatever we can to work around it. And if you succeed, fantastic. But if you don't succeed, then it was not meant for me.
And you get to learn something from it.
I get to learn, and it was
Every
not meant
obstacle
for
is
me.
opportunity to
It was,
learn.
or it was not meant for me. It was not meant for me.
Okay.
There are something else meant for me.
Yeah.
Very simple.
Nice.
Okay.
So now let's just go outside the classroom.
Sure.
So, what is Miss Ranjini like outside school? Like, what are your likes, dislikes?
You can talk about your favorite food, your favorite pastime, your favorite hobby, anything like that.
Yeah, actually, it's a very contrary thing at home. No, actually, no, there are some similarities
Okay.
outside of school as well. Yeah, I mean, I like to be very organized within school as well, and that permeates to my life outside as well. I like to be organized with my time and my stuff, but in my downtime, if I take my downtime, I really take my downtime. Then I don't want to work. Then I don't want to even lift a finger. So, yeah, I mean, you can say, but I don't go to that extent of bed rotting like kids these days do. No, not for me.
No.
But I do like to cook. I love to travel. I love to spend time with my family and my friends. But I also value my alone time. I'm very content as a human being to just be alone as well.
Yeah, you can't always be around people. You need your own time.
No, I need my time where I'm possibly in the same physical space as my family, but all of us are doing our own things.
Okay.
Yeah.
We are not necessarily talking to each other. Like I could be reading a book, somebody else could be doing something else, and
Just
I
like
value
kind of
that.
enjoying each other's presence.
Yeah, we are in the same space, but
Yeah.
we're doing our own things.
Okay.
So you talk about traveling. You have any favorite travel destination or something like that?
Some place that I like to keep going back to,
Yeah.
Bali.
Bali.
It's very sweet
been
and
there,
simple,
yeah.
very easily accessible from India.
Yes,
It's also
definitely.
quite similar to India, like
Very.
yeah.
And the people are
religion
so
and
warm
culture.
Yeah.
and beautiful beaches
Very,
and
very
everything is so
amazing.
nice.
And it has two different things. It has the beach area and the tropical side of it as well.
Yeah.
In the form of Ubud. and
Ubud,
Semi,
exactly.
So
Yes.
two different places. So that's a good thing.
Absolutely.
You get
I love it.
best of both, yes.
Yes.
So, do you have like a hobby outside of school that people don't know about?
I do a lot of painting,
Painting.
but for my not like canvases
Bahar
and
dekh ke
fancy
extra
stuff.
nahi.
Just simple stuff that I like to do. Like I like the traditional art, so I've learned Varli, I've learned Madhubani, I've
nice.
learned all these.
Hmm.
So I do this just for my own happiness whenever I find the time.
So if you're into painting, there's this traditional African painting as well. It's called Tinga Tinga. Sounds very funny, but it's a very traditional way. They make like really cool ways of animals in different ways, you know. So I'll give you the
Please.
pictures. Yeah, maybe you can look at
Happy
it.
to look at
it's,
it.
it's very nice.
Yes.
Hey, can you describe your daily routine? What do you do on a daily basis? you know?
On a weekday, on school day.
Yes.
Seriously.
Yeah. We don't mind knowing both. I mean, on
Weekday,
weekend,
wake up is at 5:10. I get up. 5:10.
5:10. Wow, that's so early.
That's actually pretty early. Yeah.
Because I prefer to get my own food. I don't
okay.
eat at the canteen.
Yeah.
So I get up, I cook, I pack my stuff, my breakfast, my lunch, everything, and then I get out. And there is some days, there are bad days when the traffic is not so great,
Yeah.
and you get
Mumbai
stuck.
traffic, yeah.
So we try to avoid it. So there are 3 of us who travel together, 3 teachers.
Okay.
We carpool. Not exactly carpool, it's just that we are friends and we just chose to travel
Of course,
together.
it's much better with friends.
Yeah, so and there's another teacher who has a car, so we alternate. So it's like I'm not driving every day, that's also good.
That's a good thing. Yes.
So we leave by 6:40, so that we are in school latest by 7:10. and then it's like run,
Have
run,
you ever
run.
been to school very late, like where you have to actually run back to class?
Yeah, one of the first day of my school when I joined OIS.
The first
I
day?
I did not realize that Mohan Gokhale can be torturous.
Oh no.
Yeah.
I got stuck so badly. I just made it in time.
Oh my God.
Yes.
Yeah, but that's our story every day actually. I just reach near Western in the morning.
And you start
have to
jogging?
Start jogging in the morning. Yeah.
Yeah, so now we choose to come in at 7:10 so we can avoid that. Then school, then go back. Then I do like to do some amount of. I love yoga, so that's something that I go back and do some of that. Then dinner, then sometimes work, sometimes chill.
Yeah.
Weekdays, I ideally would not love to wake up before 8:30, 9 maybe, and then get into the day. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
So, is there like a particular book or movie that you have enjoyed a lot and that inspires you, like, in your life?
Particular book or movie?
Are you a book or a movie person? Let's get
Both.
to know that first.
Both.
Okay.
I love both.
Okay.
Those are my favorite pastimes.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm not reading, I'm watching. If I'm not watching, I'm reading.
Okay.
But I do off late read more for work
Okay.
and more like self growth, self development than
Yeah.
fiction.
Mhm.
Don't get too much of time to read fiction except in longer vacations like summer breaks.
Yeah.
But there's been nothing, no one movie or one book that I can say that inspired me.
You go to the cinemas, like you'll go to the cinemas and watch new movies, is that? Because
Yeah, I do that.
Yeah.
And I really enjoy it, but sometimes after going there, I'm like, why? I could have just
You
seen
could just
this.
read it.
Yeah.
I could have just seen it on
Yeah.
small screen. I
You
don't
could have
think
read about it, yeah.
read about it or just watched it on the OTT.
Yeah, aram se.
Okay.
Like Deadpool was one of those. I went there, then I like,
Lokesh.
I could have seen it on the OTT.
Yeah. So you should go for 3 too. It's a nice movie.
Yeah?
Very,
I
very
haven't
good.
seen one.
Very good. Yeah.
So
Oh, you haven't? Oh.
No.
Then I think it's better to watch the first one and then go for the second one.
I will take your recommendation. I will do that.
Yeah. So who inspires you the most? Do you have anyone? It could be a famous person. It could come down from your family. Who's someone who inspires you the most?
Actually, that's both my dad and my dad-in-law.
Okay.
Both of them have had some amazing journeys in their lives. From where they started off and where they ended up in terms of career growth, and I don't need to really look outside for inspiration when I have both of them.
Yeah. No.
Yeah.
Because it's been a classic from nothing to everything story for both of
So
them.
that's a
in
trait
terms-
that you
Yeah.
envy in them. That.
I
they're
would
hardworking.
love to just follow in those footsteps and how they worked so hard to build up what they did. So yeah,
Are you a believer in hard work or luck? What do you think?
both matter.
Both do.
Being at the right time at the right place and working hard, both matter.
And more
It's not
importantly, just like how you said, showing up each day.
showing up
Yeah.
each day, doing your bit,
Yeah.
but also being aware of what's happening so that you can place yourself at the right
Yeah,
time
yeah.
Okay.
and
Definitely.
hope for good
Grab the
opportunities.
opportunities,
Yes.
That awareness factor is kind of missing in nowadays because in kids nowadays, because half of the time we're on our phones, right? So you're not really aware of what's happening. So would you recommend like being less on the phone,
Any
less
day.
screen time?
Yeah.
Any day.
Yeah.
For example, these vacations that I took a short vacation in the summer break.
Oh, where
So-
did you go to?
We discussed, I went to Uganda.
Oh, oh.
Remember we
Oh,
spoke
yeah,
about
yeah,
it
yeah.
in the class.
Yeah.
So I chose consciously to not take a roaming plan.
Okay.
So what it did was I was disconnected the entire day. The only time that I could check my emails, WhatsApp was in the evening or in the mornings
That's a
at the
very good
resort.
thing.
Yeah.
And
Amazing.
most of these resorts are in places where the Wi-Fi connectivity is very poor.
I'm sure. Yes.
So the only time they have Wi-Fi is in the reception area.
Okay.
So I loved it because it actually gave me time to unwind and to see, to understand what's happening, to have lovely conversations with our guide, come driver,
Okay.
to really understand the culture of the country, to understand the country, the political situation, the system, which I love learning about every time I go to a new place. So yeah, being disconnected allows you to really interact, talk to people, learn, build relationships.
Being
Yeah,
disconnected allows you to connect.
Yeah. Nice one. Yeah, definitely. Uganda gorillas देखे आपने उधर?
Of course.
It's known for gorillas.
Yes.
सबसे ज़्यादा.
Yes. That was my bucket list.
That was right. Did
Looking
you take
at-
a trail up or did you like? Because there's a walking trail that you can take
There
up
is
a
no
mountain.
trail actually.
Huh?
Those kind of walks are very dangerous.
Acha.
There is no trail.
Acha.
You just climb up the hill and it's called an impenetrable forest.
Okay.
For a reason. There is no path, no trail. So you have a lead guy with a gun, then you have a guy with a machete who's cutting the branches
Oh my
as you're
God.
walking up. It's just loose mud, roots, leaves, branches.
And it's risky, yeah.
Very. If you slip, you can really slip.
आपने किया कि नहीं किया?
We did.
Oh, you did that?
We did.
Wow.
We walked for 1.5 hours and we
Gorillas.
went and saw the gorillas, a
Wow.
family of 6 gorillas. Amazing.
Big
Worth it.
animals, yes.
Absolutely.
We should do it. I mean.
Yeah, all of you should do it. I would recommend it highly to everybody. So we saw the gorillas and we saw the chimps. Both are unique to Uganda.
Chimpanzees as well. Okay.
It was fun.
Okay, then I think we've talked. You've lived and worked in multiple countries.
No,
And
in multiple-
only in India's?
All my life.
Only in India.
All my life.
Okay.
Traveled, yes, but lived and worked in India.
Okay.
Is there like a particular reason for that? Like,
No, it just so happened.
Yeah.
It
Okay.
just happened. I
Yeah.
mean, not by choice or design. It just so happened.
It just happened.
Yeah.
Move on to segment number 3, which is just a few business management related questions. Not too much, but we had to include
Sure.
this.
Yeah.
Of course.
So, okay, what is business management like for a student in 10th grade choosing their subjects?
like
So
what
for all our-
advice would you give them? Yeah.
For all our 10th grade viewers, people who are below 10th grade, what people who have to choose their subject,
Hmm.
what is business management like? What can they expect in this subject?
The first thing I would tell them is to start speaking to their parents,
Okay.
because oftentimes we see that most kids' parents are working. At least one parent is definitely working.
Yeah.
And talk to them to just understand what a day looks like for them at work in terms of what all do they do. Not just like, oh, I go attend meetings. Okay, what do you do in the meetings?
Yeah.
What do you talk to people about? What does your company do? And if they can possibly talk to say 5 or 6 different people in 6 different areas of like industries or areas with the help of their parents, at least understand what it means before getting into it,
Yeah,
because
yeah.
it sounds interesting but may not be very interesting for somebody.
And it's 2 years of your IPDP.
Yes.
Very important.
But then again, there's only so much of risk management you can do by collecting information. There are times when you will get in and you will realize that's the best decision you made, and then there may be times when you possibly feel that was the worst decision.
Okay.
I mean, you have to be prepared for both.
About decisions, thoda sa. We have a lot of people who are traveling out of India this time. Personally, what would you for
studying.
studies undergrad? What would you recommend? Staying in India where it's actually developing quite a lot, or at this age going out of India? Because not everyone is matured at this age. 18 is still not the most matured age that you're at. What would you recommend? Staying in India or going out?
Both have their pros and cons.
Hmm.
So let's take one thing at a time. So if you want to talk about going out,
Hmm.
a lot of you are enamored with the idea of going out, completing your studies there,
Yeah.
maybe continuing to stay on there. For those people, I would say that if you look at the geopolitical or economic situation right now, a lot of opportunities are in India
Yeah, there are.
and in Asia.
Definitely.
I mean,
Singapore,
if you really compare in terms of economic and business opportunities, work opportunities, there are a lot more in India and Asia than anywhere else.
And I
Definitely.
think right, like as we're transitioning from becoming developing to actually to becoming developed,
Yeah, as you
We are-
in our journey from third world to
Yeah.
first world.
we are like there are a lot of business opportunities.
Yes.
They're emerging, definitely.
Yeah.
So that's something I've told my own kid, that please be open to coming back, because in all probability you might find the best jobs happening
Yeah.
there.
Definitely, yes.
So
And in the next 10 years, like I personally see India being like one of the hot spots like
to work
for
at.
business.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would think so too. So, I mean, if a child decides to go out, the good bit is living out there, half a world away, is a great way to grow and
okay.
learn. So, when I was younger, I left home at the age of 17 to move into a hostel. So
Okay.
for me, it was just across the country, from east twist.
Still Mrs. living alone. So
Yeah, it was another thing, and it helped me grow as a person because you're doing everything for yourself.
Shapes you.
You're responsible for whatever choices you make because you have to deal with the consequences.
Right.
Your mom or dad cannot come running.
Yeah.
I mean, I was in the same country, potentially they could have.
Hmm.
But for my students and for my daughter, she's half a world away.
Yeah.
Even if she's in some major problem,
You
there's
cannot-
only so much I can do.
Yeah.
I can possibly contact my closest
Exactly.
friends or family members to help her.
Yeah,
But at the end of the day, she has to figure out her stuff.
definitely.
So I think living alone can really help you grow as a person,
Yeah.
help you become more
Independent,
independent, help you take responsibility of your actions, and you become more self-sufficient. That is the best part of being alone and away.
Yeah.
But then the con is that right now the socio-political economic climate is
Exactly.
favorable
Yeah.
towards people, towards the economic conditions in our country
Yeah.
or in Asian
Yeah,
countries.
definitely.
Right.
So the opportunities are more this side.
Yeah.
Now for those who want to stay here, fantastic. I mean, you have the comfort of being at home, and that is another different comfort because that allows you to possibly do a lot of things because you are not worried about who's doing. Oh, I have to do my laundry. I have to make my
You can
bed.
focus on so much more
So
actually staying
you-
in India, definitely.
Yeah, but the only drawback is you will always be reliant on somebody taking care of stuff
And
for
in
you.
your own comfort zone.
Like
That's
you'll
the-
never realize what your parents did for you if you don't go away.
Or you will never step out of your comfort zone.
Definitely.
Right.
That's
You're always
that's a very important
operating
thing.
in your comfort zone, which is good and bad.
Yeah,
Okay.
it really depends. on
It's
how
good
you
and
see
bad.
it,
It's
yeah.
got its pluses
Yeah.
that you're free to do so many things, but the negative is you will never know how well you can manage on your own.
Right.
Yeah, and after a point in time, you might find it difficult to learn, or it might just be a steeper learning curve.
Yeah. Just
Because as you grow older, you become more set in your patterns of thinking and doing things.
So I keep this one thing that you said in mind at the start of the podcast, that doing an MBA, let's not rush straight into it. You know?
Yes.
That 3 to 4 year job experience
Yes,
is very important.
very critical.
Perhaps that's when you can actually go out and study. If you stay in India right now in your comfort zone a little bit, that's after that you can go out for your postgrad or you can go out for
that's
work
always an
experience.
option.
But you're a bit more mature then. You can
True.
actually take care of yourself a bit
That's
better.
also
back then.
it's just POVs, multiple
It is,
POVs.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
you, your family, what you all actually decide. We
What
just wanted
works
to know
for
your
you?
take on it,
What
you know.
works for you?
Yeah.
Because what works for one may not work for another.
So, Miss, if you had to start a business today, what would it be and why?
What sector do you think is
Yeah.
very profitable right now? किसमें आप जाते हैं सीधा?
Interesting.
Hmm.
Never gave it a thought actually. Seriously.
But looking at the current, news, current scenarios in the world, maybe say AI or something like that, that kind of business would be profitable but fun at the same time to work in.
Yeah, but it's not fun for me because I'm not a very tech person.
Okay.
AI, okay.
So AI may not be a fun thing. Maybe some kind of investments or something like that because
Art.
finance is nicer
Yeah.
Okay.
than AI for
Yeah,
me.
yeah, for sure.
And I don't know. Food for thought. I'll think and get back to you
Yeah,
guys.
okay. ठीक है बस. Okay, if you're our age, which specific area of business would you choose to go into?
Or like study about first.
Study about. देखो marketing है, human resources, different. You have different areas in a business. So which one would you go into?
So I
if
did
you were
my
our age?
MBA finance.
In finance, okay.
But I think if I had to redo it, I'll potentially do it in communications or marketing or something because that's more fun, I think.
It's fun and it's also a very important skill in life.
Yeah.
Communication is very important.
Yeah, design, communication, or whatever, possibly in that area because it's so much more fun.
So you're more experienced in life than compared to us. So what skills would you say are very valuable? What skills have you thought of and what skills have you learned that are very valuable in life that can help you keep growing?
The first thing that I would always stress upon is building a good network. And by network, I don't mean that, oh, I know this guy, I know this guy, I know this guy. No, but actually having some, even if it's your acquaintance, have some kind of a good relationship. Because you cannot just randomly call in somebody and say, hey, listen, I need something. No,
Yeah,
that's not going
no.
to work, right? So it's an art, being able to have a large network and maintain it well.
Okay.
I think that's the first thing I would say that anybody should develop. Network. being able to communicate well, effectively. And by communication, I mean you are able to put across your point, and especially if it's a difficult situation, being able to use the right words and the right tone to get your message across without offending people.
Okay.
Or without ruffling
Like
feathers.
Being mindful of them, yeah.
Being tactful, being mindful, but being able to communicate.
Right.
Communicate also means being able to say no,
Okay.
right?
Yeah.
Oftentimes, especially when you're younger and not so wise, you want to just do things just maybe because you think it's the right thing to do, or maybe because you just want to keep people happy. So in such a situation, I think it's very good to learn early on how to say no in a way without offending people again.
You
Right?
have to say no. That's
Yeah, you need to
Yeah.
know. So basically, network, communicate effectively, and show up every day and just do that work, because there is no shortcut.
There is no shortcut. You have to do it in some way. or
You
another.
got to do
have
what you
get-
got to do.
'Cause,
And even if there is a short work, it might not catch up with you now, but it will catch up with you at some point in time, whatever corners that you cut. So may as well do what you have to do and give it your best.
You have to give it. Miss, you said you're a very organized person in school and outside school.
I like
Can you give
things
us some-
organized.
As a things organized, do you organize your day as well in some particular
Ideally,
way?
I try to.
Yeah.
Like this time, this much, this
Yeah.
time is devoted
Does-
for
do you
this
work
much,
with
this
it
time
or-
is. Yeah.
Hota hai,
Yeah.
hota hai, okay.
With so many years of constantly doing it,
Yeah.
it falls into place.
Do you have any specific way? Because, in 12th, time management is it's a very important
Do the
for
thing
us.
that you hate the most.
You have to do it
first.
first.
Yeah.
Because you will never do it otherwise.
Yeah.
So get it out of your way, then you have your time free to do the things that you like, or not like as much, but still not hate as much.
Yeah.
The ones that you hate are the ones you'll procrastinate about.
The most.
Right,
Yes,
yeah.
that's true. So you have to get it out of your way first thing in the morning. Just like finish it off.
I'm a believer of eat the frog.
Say yeah, no miss. That makes sense. Okay.
So, Miss, now let's get into some controversial questions.
Segment number 4. Okay, something debatable, controversial.
So,
Okay.
what's your take on the increasing influence of AI in education? Do you see it as a tool, or do you see it as like a threat to traditional teaching?
Depends on the context
Okay.
and how it's being used. It can be a great tool or an aid. Like, for example, if I have a class where I need to possibly have differentiation, where maybe one student needs more help than the rest. So maybe having some tools and techniques through AI, I could keep the others occupied while I focus on that one child that needs more assistance. Or if there is an AI assistant that could hold hand for that one child more.
Okay.
So therefore, AI can make education more equitable for people, accessible for people. So
But the way you use it is important.
Yeah.
yes, so it's like you need to understand how to use it, and you need to be able to still develop your critical thinking and cognitive abilities, and not just rely on AI to do your work.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's true.
Because at the end of the day, if you want to be relevant, you need to have your own critical thinking skills and your own cognitive abilities well developed. Otherwise, how would you stay relevant?
You have to use your own brain. Because
Yeah.
if you see, before the use of AI, we were doing our work anyways, right?
Yeah.
AI has just become an excuse to like us being a bit lazy now. So it's just that's the only problem. But
Because irrelevance is one of the biggest issues that could potentially
yeah.
crop up
Yeah.
in the future. So being relevant is essential, and that's only going to happen if your cognitive abilities are
Yeah.
developed.
Yeah.
And if you're going to be using the AI, you're going to be constantly needing that crutch.
Yeah.
It becomes a crutch.
Yeah, it does. It
Yeah.
does, definitely. You're always going to be leaning on something.
So yeah.
So do you think the emphasis of standardized testing helps or hinders students' development and creativity? अभी आ रहा है IB exam. So
SAT,
आप बता दो.
IB exam, yeah.
आपके साथ.
So it's more like I look at the standardized testing as a gatekeeper,
Okay.
right? So it just say, okay, fine, आपका ability इतना है, therefore, okay, maybe this is where. And it could be controversial to say this,
Yeah.
but I'm going to go out on a limb and say it.
The same.
So it's not that if you are getting some X number points on your SAT or X points on IB, it doesn't define you.
Thank you. Feels so good that at least someone has said it, like put it out there, because at the end of the day, isn't it just a test of your memory? Like आप कितना अच्छे से इसको memorize
No,
कर सकते हो?
it's a test of your memory. It's a test of your luck. You having a good day and being able to write your papers well. No, it's also, see, IB to a large extent is also a test of your ability to process, write, etc., etc. in some subjects. Okay, so I'm now going to take that away from at least the IBDP curriculum, right? But then just because you end up with like a 34 or 35 doesn't mean that you are only capable of that.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So maybe you didn't find your niche. Maybe you were too immature at that time, and therefore maybe you didn't understand the importance of time management, being organized, doing your work on time. Maybe you learned it a little later in life.
Yeah.
And you would still be a success. So I don't think the numbers should hold you back or define you or not define you. But what you need to know for sure is that you did your best.
That makes sense, yes.
Like you put everything out on the table, yeah.
You did your best.
Yeah.
And then after that, what happens is something that's a little beyond your control. But at least what is in control is what you can do. Do that. And then you see where it takes you. So standardized testing, yes, to an extent it doesn't tell you how creative the student is. Maybe or maybe not. But then that should not stop you.
Yeah, it should not.
It should not. You should not think that defines you.
There are kids who are better in other aspects, not only teaching, sports, music, art, everything.
Yeah.
So they shouldn't be limited to only studies. That's what I feel. You know.
That's why this is a better curriculum than many others.
In fact,
because it allows you to explore so many options to your own personality.
Yeah. In fact, after grade 10, they were also testing our creativity, which was criteria C. So we were testing our creativity, making projects and all of that. So that's actually a little bit better compared to all these other boards where you only have to study.
When you're only looking at numbers.
Yeah.
So you guys are blessed.
Yes,
to an extent.
we agree. No, miss, we are. It's just the workload is a bit too much for us, but I mean that's only going to help us in the future.
So, miss, what's your opinion on the impact of social media on student health?
Mental health and learning, you know.
Right now I'm reading this book. I'm only reading it little by little because it's not one of those books which you can read at one go. It's called An Anxious Generation by Jonathan Haidt. And that's a book that I think is recommended for every parent, every educator, every teacher, every adult.
Okay.
Because it does talk about, and that book has a lot of concrete research on exactly that point about how the social media has actually impacted the children and their thought process and thinking. And I do believe that the age at which a student or a child is allowed access to social media matters a lot. It matters a lot because at the end of the day they are children. They don't know better. So the adults around have to be mindful and teach them the right from wrong.
To mediate.
Yes. So the adults, that's us, we have the responsibility of telling you guys that, you know, this is not really going to work. And now we have solid research that backs it up. So if we have to even justify what we are telling to our children, we have research, at least that we can refer to and say this is what is the proven research. And therefore, this is the place I'm coming from when I tell you not to get to social media early or to restrict the amount you spend on it. So yeah, I do think it impacts.
So in your childhood, you did not have social media, and so we both have different upbringings.
Of course.
You used to find like happiness in the small things, whereas here when kids they have their iPad taken away, they get really angry, they get really upset. So you think that impacts it a lot, the childhood and the upbringing, you know?
Yeah, because I mean, if you're bored, you're bored. There was nothing else to do. You just go and sit and just start thinking. You just get more creative and more imaginative.
In different ways, you know?
Yeah, and you are more resilient.
Yeah. So
I mean, if taking an iPad away can make a child throw a tantrum and kick up a fuss, then what is the resilience we are talking about?
Yes.
What are you going to do when there are bigger
Definitely.
problems in life?
Also, what role do you think schools have in managing like this social media and students' approach towards it?
Interesting. As a parent, as a student, as a parent and as a teacher, I can answer both. Is that you guys are here in school for what, 6-7 hours out of 24 hours.
Right.
That's
So,
just one
That's
thought.
not much to ask for, just to keep your phone aside. That's true.
I mean, there's only so much that we can do. It is something that the school and the parents have to work together to ensure that it is happening. That's why I think here also they have so many sessions where they're telling parents about the problems associated with too much of social media, and that's happening right from PYP all the way to now. I think that's good that parents and teacher and the school community work together, because it's not something that only one side can achieve all by themselves. It has to work together.
Okay, Miss, in your experience, does the current education system prepare students adequately for the realities of the modern world in some way?
Yes and no.
Yes and no.
Yes and no. Yes, in the sense, like the basic ethic or the basic values that an education system or a school or teachers try to inculcate in you. When we tell you to show up every day, give it your best, do whatever you can, don't worry about the consequences. These are basic lessons that are going to keep you support you all through your life. Basic things like organizing your time better. It's a life skill. I mean, you organize your time now, you learn it now. The quicker you learn it, the more efficient you're going to be as an individual, right? So, to an extent, yes, a lot depends on the school, the education system, and the teachers themselves. Like, there are teachers who are quite happy to just come, deliver the content, and go.
Exactly. No extra efforts they're going to put into the students who actually need the extra help.
Yeah, because they are possibly coming in from a very academic POV. They're just there to deliver the content and be out. And then we have systems like IB, where we have the approaches to learning, the ATL skills, etc.
Actually break it down a lot.
Yeah, so if you look at all the so-called ATL and the social emotional learning, all of that is something that's going to help students grow as an individual. So education should not be just content, it has to help you grow as a human being, as an individual. So if it's a school that believes in all of that, a community, and it has a curriculum that also supports a holistic and individual growth of the student, yes, then I would say that they do prepare them to an extent.
What are your thoughts on growing student activism and around like climate change? What would you like to say about that? Should educators encourage this type of engagement?
Well, they should encourage the thinking in students, that they should be thinking about things other than themselves. But they shouldn't be encouraging vandalism or an extreme of demonstration or student activism, because an extreme may not be the best, may not work in the best interest of the movement or the students.
We need to come together to solve this.
You come together, but then you understand that extremism is not going to take you anywhere. You're not going to come up with any solution. You're just going to be ending up clashing horns, and then at the end of the day, your entire activism is lost in the extremism. So yes, it's the duty of teachers to encourage students to think critically and speak up for issues, but then also they need to know the boundaries. Or this is, I mean, you can speak up about it, but then it doesn't make sense going and breaking and throwing things, etc.
No,
that's pointless, right?
Miss, just want to add on to that a little bit. What was your time in school like? Is it like completely different to us? What was it? Can you describe how your schooling was? What they used to do, differences from us?
We didn't have half the liberties that you guys have.
Actually, I've heard my parents say this a lot.
We
Strict
didn't.
teachers. And
I mean, we had strict teachers, but we had some amazing teachers as well. And it was an Indian curriculum, so obviously it was very different. And and we were like It was fun. I mean, we also learned in a very different way.
Yeah.
And we learned a lot because we were very, I mean, to that extent, I would say parents in this generation are possibly more involved
Yeah.
than our parents were. Our parents were not so involved.
Yeah. Heard of that.
I don't think my father even had a clue about what was happening in my school or whatever, but that is how their generation was.
Yeah, that's okay. Mindsets have really changed
Mm.
over there. Yeah.
But that also allowed us to be more independent.
Definitely.
So
Right.
we were more responsible for our actions
Mm.
because there wasn't like a parent hovering on me and
Right.
trying to tell me what are the consequences of what to
Yeah.
if I do this or if I don't do this. So we learned our own consequences, sometimes not in the best way,
Mm.
but we did learn. So to that extent it was different. And that is the reason possibly why we are more resilient, we are stronger because we are able to deal with more stuff.
Mm.
Like from a young age, you've been taught to be independent.
Taught to be independent, and also we didn't have social media, we had like
I must
a
say,
lot
I
of
think it's all coming down to
one-to-one, yeah.
one-to-one connections, relationships. So you learned how to develop people skills, or if not early, at least a little later on in life, which you understood the value of having those skills, building relationships,
Yeah.
building networks, being able to get along with people, get your work done and work smoothly. There's so much that you learned.
Because I think it's all coming down to this phone only at the end. Because on days when you feel like you don't know what to do, if you keep your phone aside, you can actually see a lot to do. So, yeah.
True. That's it.
Amazing.
Truly some great work.
Thank you so much.
Thank
Miss.
you so much,
Thank you
Miss.
so much. We're extremely grateful to have you on the
Absolutely.
podcast.
This was so much fun.
It was fun.
Yes, it was so much
We will
fun.
keep getting better and better, and hopefully we will have you again on the podcast with fresh
Yeah.
questions. After
Oh,
that.
wow.
Yes.
Fun.
So, yes.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank
Miss.
you.